What's going on, awesome people of YouTube? In today's video, I'm going to be posting my entire webinar stream that I had with my Discord community this morning, going into session, understanding our exact trade plan, expectational order flow, and the different week high or low points that price will want to target going into session. I'm also going to recap a 1 to 4 risk to reward trade that I had on GBPUSD, and also a -1 risk to reward trade that I had on GBPUSD, both this morning totaling at a net profit of 3 risk to reward and a net return of 1.5% on my $200,000 funded account at a 0.5% risk per trade. If you guys want to access my daily streams going into session, every single London session and New York session, I'll leave a link down below, the first link in the description. There's also a full SMC structure, supply and demand, expectational order flow, and understanding raw price action course mentorship in the Discord as well. My name is Jay, your No BS South African online entrepreneur, $500,000 funded prop firm trader from South Africa that documents my journey and posts my live streams on my YouTube channel to give you insight what it's like going into the markets every single morning with the trade plan, understanding what we can expect from price, executing that trade plan and managing risk, eliminating all aspects of greed, emotions, revenge trading, and purely just following our trade plan. Also giving my members a clear understanding of what we can expect from price and a true crystal clear understanding of what price can be expected to do going into session. Without further ado, guys, I hope you get tons of value. This webinar will be about 40 minutes long. I really do recommend pay attention to these webinars as you will learn tons of value, what it's like going into session with a trade plan, managing your emotions, managing your risk, and what it's like to be a full-time trader. Like I said, if you want to get access to the streams, that will be the first link in the descriptions. But without further ado, enjoy the stream and I hope you get tons of value. Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to the London morning live stream, markup and trade plan going into session. Hope you guys had a good Monday yesterday. Markets were very rangy yesterday because of the bank holiday. So yeah, during US session, price action was just awful. But that's all right. We'll continue into today's session, marking up our usual trade plan and going over what we can expect going into session, expectational order flow, and markup of any pairs that you guys request. Okay, you guys ready to get started on EU? Then we can do our 5 pairs that we always cover, and then any other extra pairs that you guys would like to request. Alright, I've also just started the recording so I can post the stream straight after the stream ends. And then I'll post that as per usual in the London webinars section under the course content section. Okay, so Euro USD yesterday, early this morning, eventually came up to the areas of supply that we marked out in yesterday's stream, which has given quite a bit of a reaction off of the supply area. All right, so we can actually go and update our internal structure M15. Most recently, we had the M15 swing, break of structure to the downside, which was created by our strong high, which then started that M15 pullback. We then tried to target the M15 week low, but we couldn't create that candle body closure below, so we did not create that break of structure. Instead, we just created equal lows over here, which is liquidity for the higher time frame for our demand level in the 4-hour strong swing range, which we can expect to get swept following the supply chain throughout the week. Okay, so going into session today, we're currently reacting off these areas of supply. I would actually like to see, potentially going into session today, this liquidity to be swept. Price is busy reacting off the supply zone over here, but this supply zone didn't really do anything. It didn't create any break of structure. It just kind of reacted off the previous supply that did create break of structure and has now created this wick zone, which didn't take out the previous break of structure. So yes, the supply zone had the valid liquidity. It is unmitigated. It created the inefficient push, but it did not create a break of structure. So therefore, there's a good chance that the supply zone can be swept going into session later today. But again, we'll react to what price does for us later on. Okay, so most recently internal structure, we've had this internal break of structure to the upside, which was created by our internal strong low, which leaves behind our M15 internal weak high. Okay, most recent demand areas that we can mark out in this area that created this internal break of structure to the downside. We have a more recent demand fractal range over here. This is very messy candles from yesterday's session. I would look at this demand fractal range and just mark that out at the 50%. These would be valid demand areas that have created this internal break of structure. So if we get confirmation of these demand areas, that would be valid to then look for longs to continue targeting those internal weak highs and this double top liquidity as well. If price also decides to pull back without mitigating this area of demand, we have our valid supply fractal range that has created the change of character off of the supply, which can be refined to this 15-minute candle over here. This was the demand that failed, which was created by that supply. So this we can have as a FPOS, that fractal break to the downside, which was most recently created by this supply. So if we get a pullback into this area of supply and we get that confirmation, valid to look for shorts to ride price deeper areas of demand. Potentially price could even then want to target the overall M15 swing week low. Yeah, again, we'll react on what price does. If price fails this area of supply, valid to look for longs to continue riding price into deeper areas of the M15 swing strong in deeper areas of supply. Okay, you guys happy with EU going into session? Okay, you're welcome. Let's move on to GBPUSD. For some unknown reason, yesterday my GBPUSD drawings cleared, so I'll just quickly restart this from scratch on the 4-hour time frame. Most recently, we have had the 4-hour swing break of structure to the upside, which was created by this 4-hour strong low. Four-hour swing strong, and then left behind our 4-hour weak high. Okay, so most recent areas of demand that we could potentially see price have that reversal to continue targeting those weak highs. We do have valid 4-hour demand fractal ranges over here, okay, which then can be refined down to a lower time frame. Internally wise, most recently we have had the 4-hour internal break of structure to the downside, which leaves behind our 4-hour internal strong high. That was the highest point after the pullback that created that next break of structure. And our 4-hour internal weak low. Okay, valid 4-hour areas of supply. We have a valid supply zone over here that created this break of structure with the inefficient push, this inducement and liquidity that's acting for the supply zone. We can then hop over to the M15 time frame, which most recently we have had this M15 break of structure to the upside, downside, which was created by this M15 strong high. And this 4-hour internal weak also becomes our M15 internal weak low. Valid supply zones, M15 supply zones, would be these wick zones over here, which you can refine down to the 5 minutes. All right, suppose you could refine it down to that wick over there. So yeah, going into session today, if we get a reaction off of the supply and we see a clear supply take over demand, so we want to see a mitigation into the supply take over demand, valid to then look for shorts to continue targeting these internal weak lows and potentially even the overall 4-hour and M15 weak low. If price fails this area of supply, price will most likely take out the M15 swing strong and continue with more of that 4-hour internal pullback into deeper areas of supply before going short and targeting the overall internal 4-hour week low. Okay, so yeah, price at the moment internally is also bullish, taking out those weak highs. So most recently on the internal time frame, we would have had this internal break of structure to the upside, which in my opinion was created by potential lows over here which started this internal week high. So that would be our M15 internal week. M15, where's the templates? M15, strong internal, with our valid IBOS to the upside. Okay, so valid demand zones that have created this break of structure, this entire demand range from this fractal high to the fractal low is a valid demand fractal range, which is what's been mitigated this morning, which then if you refine this to a lower time frame or just a single candle, it would be this candle over here. Okay, so yeah, if price pulls back into these areas of demand without mitigating the supply, it would then be valid to look for longs to ride price towards these M15 internal weak highs and also the deeper areas of the M15 supply areas. So yeah, if price mitigates the supply, I wouldn't be looking for longs on these demand levels anymore. I'd rather than be looking for shorts off the supply as that is what would be in control after the mitigation of the higher time frame supply. Okay, you guys happy with GBPUSD going into session? You guys happy to move on to XAU USD? Okay, awesome. We can move on to XAU. So yeah, going into session yesterday on XAUUSD, we said one of two things is going to happen. Price is either going to mitigate this area of supply and continue with more of that M15 swing pullback to deeper areas of the M15 swing strong, or price is just going to give no confirmation at all whatsoever on the supply, and if that's the case, it's most likely going to take out that M15 week high and continue targeting these internal week highs. Okay, so most recently now we've had that M15 break of structure to the upside, which was created by this M15 swing strong low. Okay, valid areas of demand. We have a valid extreme demand area over here that created this overall push to break this previous M15 week high. Price is currently reacting off of the demand fractal range that flipped the supply zone, continuing to target these M15 internal week highs. So expectational order flow going into session today is to still continue targeting these M15 week highs. Okay, we also have a valid extreme zone down here, but I doubt price will reach this area over here before taking out that M15 week high. More recent areas of demand as well. We have a demand fractal range here, which has been refined to this candle. So if price pulls back into this area of demand, valid to look for longs to target that week high, and also this double top liquidity that's busy forming over here. Just to recap the 4-hour time frame, we have shifted into that 4-hour pullback phase internally. So swing structure, we've most recently had the 4-hour break of structure to the upside, that 4-hour pullback created by the 4-hour swing strong. Internally, we've had that internal break of structure to the downside, that internal pullback, so we could potentially still see a bit of a bullish run going into the next couple of weeks into the deeper areas of supply before going short to target those internal weak lows. Okay, if price takes out the internal strong as a whole, there's a good chance then price will have a bit of a pullback and continue targeting that overall 4-hour week high, the swing week high, and even potentially create record highs on gold. But yeah, again, that would just be expectational order flow, real long term on gold. But going into session today, we still are definitely bullish bias looking to target the week highs. Okay, you guys happy with XAU USD? Can we move forward to US30 and NASDAQ? Okay, awesome. So This is on NAS 100. Most recently on the 4-hour time frame, we've had that 4-hour break of structure to the downside. So we're currently in that 4-hour pullback phase where price has just mitigated discounted areas of the previous 4-hour swing range. So if you take your fib retracement tool from that strong high to the weak low, you can see we've got discount, equilibrium, and premium pricing. Price has now mitigated supply areas in the discounted areas of the 4-hour swing range, and we then had that M15 break of structure to the downside. So over here we had this M15. This IBOS was the M15 boss to the downside. We then started that M15 pullback over here with this internal shift to the upside. Started this M15 pullback. We then broke structure to the downside. So yesterday going into session, we were left behind with this M15, excuse me, swing strong high and the weak low, which price actually took out that M15 swing strong high completely, wanting to continue with more of that internal 4-hour pullback. All right, so that's okay. We can then come over and mark this out as our M15 boss. This just becomes our M15 strong low. Valid areas of demand that created this break of structure. We have an extreme area of demand fractal range over here, which can be refined down to this candle here. Okay, that would be my extreme M15. Most recent, we've had this internal break of structure to the upside, which can be created by this candle over here with the inefficient push, the break of structure. All of this becomes liquidity for this area of demand. So if price pulls back into this area of demand in today's session, valid to look for longs to continue targeting these internal weak highs, but understanding that you're riding more of that 4-hour internal pullback. Okay, so this internal strong high over here most recently broke down this internal low to the downside, which we then started that 4-hour internal pullback potentially into these areas of supply before going short to target the overall 4-hour week low. Okay. Valid areas of supply. We have a valid supply zone over here that we could potentially see a reaction from. So if price mitigates this area of supply, it could cater for a bit of reaction into demand areas that are in control to continue targeting those internal weak highs. Okay. But yeah, NASDAQ as well yesterday during London and US session. I think it was again just because of the bank holiday. Very messy price action, just kind of bouncing back and forth, not really doing anything. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some better price action in session today. But you guys happy with NAS? We can move on to USD. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to USD. So USD as well, going into session yesterday, we most recently had this interim M15 week high, which wasn't the official week high yet because price hadn't really started that pullback after this M15 break of structure to the upside. So in this type of scenario, if price is just kind of having these pauses in price action after that M15 boss, the expectation is still just to continue targeting those interim weak highs until we get that proper pullback with that M15 internal shift to the downside. Okay, so this now won't become our new M15 swing strong over here because this wasn't an official or a proper pullback. This will still remain our M15 swing strong, and this can just become as our updated new M15 week low, week high, because this internal shift over here to the downside was confirmation that we've started that M15 pullback, so we can now mark out our M15 week high. Excuse me. Okay, so going into session today, most recent areas of demand, what we're reacting off of, we're reacting off that wick supply zone that we marked out in yesterday's stream. So we could potentially see a bit of a pullback into deeper areas of demand over here. Price action still quite messy from yesterday. Yesterday we were reacting off of this entire demand fractal range as a whole, which again you could have refined to this candle over here. Okay, so valid areas of demand that has created these breaks of structures. I wouldn't really mark out demand levels over here because they haven't really done anything. It hasn't created a break of structure to the upside. It would need to break this high, which is kind of just wicking above. So in this scenario, this would count as a fractal demand that created a fractal break of structure to the upside. So yeah, if price pulls back into these areas of fractal demand, valid to look for longs to continue targeting those weak highs. You could say that over here we've had this internal break of structure to the upside with a candle body closure, which was caused by areas of demand that can become a demand fractal range refined to this little candle over here. Yeah, so if price pulls back into this area of demand, valid to look for longs to continue targeting these internal weak highs and potentially even the overall swing weak high, catering for more of that 4-hour internal pullback. So just to recap the 4-hour time frame, at the moment we are in that discounted area of the 4-hour swing range. So we most recently had this 4-hour break of structure to the upside created by the strong low, weak high. So we're in discounted areas of the 4-hour swing range. What do you determine a proper pullback to change the strong high or low? So M15 pullbacks, the M15 swing structure, I look for a clear internal break of structure to the downside. So over here we had that a mini pullback, internal pullback, and that internal break of structure to the downside. So for me, this would have been more than confident enough to mark out as my M15 weak high. Okay, so it's the same with the 4-hour time frame. It needs to be an M15 swing break of structure to the upside or a 4-hour internal shift to the opposite direction to determine the pullback has started. Okay. Can you please upload the stream? Please, I've joined late. Sure thing, I'm going to upload as soon as I finish with the recording when the stream is done. I'll also recap and post all of the pairs that I've covered in the trade room under the trade markup section. Okay. So yeah, to break down US30 going into session today, expectational order flow is still to continue targeting these M15 weak highs. So if price fails these areas of demand here, we'll most likely see a bit of a pullback into deeper areas of demand. There's a potential demand zone here to go long and target those internal weak highs. Okay. Yeah, this is also definitely a valid demand zone, equilibrium zone with the inefficient push. You could say that it created this break. It would be the extreme zone that created this internal break of structure to the upside. Okay, so if this demand fails and we get this internal break to the downside, we most likely will see a bit of a pullback into this deeper area of demand before going long. Okay, if price confirms off this demand, valid to go for longs and target the internal and swing weak highs. All right, you guys happy with US30? GBPUSD went into range now. Let's have a look. Yeah, so it's in this demand area. So again, on the 3-minute time frame, most recent areas of supply that we would like to see is this quite a little bit messy. Potentially this wick supply zone. So if we get the break of this wick supply, opposite side demand, valid to look for longs. This is quite a sharp push into this demand area. So yeah, I'd either wait for a bit of potential structure to form in this area before going long, because this is quite a sharp knife fall push into this GU demand zone. Okay, USD CAD. Is structure and then a triple M enough? Yeah, so if you want to take risk triple M entry on the a 15-minute zone, I would wait for a 15-minute triple M confirmation. Yeah, or just on the 3-minute time frame, which is my favorite time frame, to look for a clear, you would look for here demand to take over supply. Then it would be valid to look for longs. Okay, so as price is, I would look for price, because these supply zones are quite far away. This entire wick is a valid supply zone that created this break of structure to the downside and the mitigation into this demand. So if we see this supply zone fail, then that would be a confirmation that demand is starting to take over. Or alternatively, you want to see a little bit of structure form. For example, a low to be taken out, and then the opposite shift to the upside, which would be confirmation to potentially go long. Okay. USD CAD. Yeah, we can start with USD CAD. Sure thing. So yesterday on, let me just come back to the M15 time frame here. On USD CAD, we started a bit of that M15 pullback off the refined area, 4-hour supply area. So over here, the 4-hour swing strong. So we had this 4-hour supply fractal range and this 4-hour refined supply candle, which is what we wicked into yesterday, which is now catering for that M15 pullback into areas of demand. So yesterday we swept all of this liquidity in session, these triple bottoms, which we swept into this demand level to continue long from there. We then started more of a bit of a range overnight from yesterday's slow price action. So going into session today, what we could expect is expectational order flow is to still target these M15 week highs, but all of these 1, 2, 3, 4 taps over here can become potential liquidity to sweep in session today before mitigating of valid areas of demand, before continuing long to target the M15 week high. As most of the time when you can see quite obvious liquidity like this, there's good opportunity and chance for that to be swept into deeper areas of demand to then continue going long. But that's okay. Again, we'll just react on what price does closer in session. So most recently we have now had, is that a candle body closure? That's just a wick. So for me, this is not an internal break of structure. Just gonna put that correct, because that is just, yeah, that's just the wick. So shorts of supply zones over here wouldn't be valid because they didn't create that break of structure. So yeah, going into session today, I would look for, we have valid demand areas over here if we get confirm with, again, all of this triple bottom liquidity. Okay, so price most recently has created this fractal break of structure to the upside created by this demand level here. Okay, so if we get the failure of this demand, we can then potentially look for just interim shorts to this area of deeper demand before then going long and targeting these internal highs. So yeah, let's just quickly mark out our internal structure. Still remains bearish over here because most recently we had this internal break to the downside created by this internal strong high, created by this internal weak low. So we still want to see, because the M15 swing weak high is gone, is weak, we want to still see the expectational order flow target these weak highs, potentially later today or later this week. Otherwise, the only time we can confirm that this 4-hour supply is holding is if we get that M15 swing break of structure to the downside, which will then be confirmation that the 4-hour pullback phase is then over. Okay, so yeah, if price fails this demand, definitely look for longs of this extreme demand area. If price still pushes up more, creates liquidity for this area of demand, this demand area would then be valid to look for longs to continue targeting these highs and the M15 swing week high overall. Because in this scenario over here, as price stands, we have liquidity on both sides, yeah, we're forming trend line liquidity here and here. So 9 times out of 10, when you see clear liquidity like this, it likes to sweep both sides before going that intended direction, targeting those relative weak highs or weak lows. Okay, so yeah, USD CAD on this zone over here, we would definitely need to see more liquidity form before looking for longs from these fractal demand areas. Okay, so you guys happy with USD CAD? Expectational order flow, still to target the weak highs. M15 swing time frame demand is definitely still in control. So just looking to follow through with that demand chain. All right, you guys happy with USD CAD? And I think we've covered a good amount of pace for this morning's stream. Can you do odd USD? Sure thing. I haven't actually looked at this pair for a while. Okay, 4-hour time frame on odd USD. We still bearish higher time frame, expectational order flow, still to continue targeting these 4-hour week lows, because we've just had that slight 4-hour pullback, more like a pause in price action, that M15 shift. So the expectation now is still to follow the supply chain to continue targeting these 4-hour week lows. Can you cover XAU USD? I've already done XAU, but I will recap it for you. Let me just finish with odd USD and then I'll recap XAU for you there. Okay, so M15 time frame on odd USD. Most recently, we had the M15. I think since the last stream, we had that M15 break of structure to the upside. So this became our M15 strong plus our 4-hour weak. Okay, we then had these areas of demand which failed. Price then wanted to continue deeper into deeper areas of demand. So we still had valid demand areas over here and here as well, which price mitigated the more extreme areas of demand to continue with the push, to continue targeting these M15 swing week highs. Most recently, yesterday, we've had this internal shift to the upside. So that can become our IBOS created by the M15 internal strong low. That must be internal. And our M15 internal week high. Okay, so yeah, expectational order flow going into session today is to potentially still see more of a pullback into deeper areas of demand. So we have an entire demand fractal range over here, which can be refined down to this candle. Okay, so if we get a pullback into this area of demand, valid to look for that confirmation to continue targeting those internal weak highs, riding more of that M15 and 4-hour pullback. Because after this M15 swing strong shift, we can now expect, we can actually now expect more of that 4-hour pullback to continue taking out these weak highs. I know on the 4-hour time frame, expectation is to still target these 4-hour weak lows, but after that 4-hour break of structure, I didn't see over here that we had that M15 boss to the upside. So the expectation now is just to continue with a bit more of that M15 and 4-hour pullback into deeper areas of supply in the 4-hour swing range to then continue still targeting those weak lows later on and longer term. Okay, so yeah, expectation in today's session, potentially looking for longs. If we mitigate areas of supply over here as well, we have this entire supply fractal range, which potentially could cater for those internal pullbacks. If the supply creates that entire, let's say this becomes our M15 internal swing strong, that internal shift, then there's a good chance that price will then want to target the overall 4-hour week low from there. Okay, so that's just speculation going further into this week and potentially even next week. But yeah, just going into today, Still looking for longs over here to target these internal weak highs. Okay, you happy with odd USD? Similar to what you had? Okay, awesome. Let's just quickly recap XAU USD. So XAU USD, we're also coming up to our demand level over here now, which the expectational order flow is still to continue targeting these M15 weak highs. If this demand level fails, we'll most likely see a pullback into deeper areas. It's actually a valid demand area over here as well, over here or over here, to then continue with that shift, continuing to target those weak highs. But going into session today, the expectation is still to target those weak highs. So from where we are at the moment, we've most recently, again, very messy candles over here, but a valid supply range that I would look for potentially if price. There's a bit of a pullback over here, that mitigation. Let me just delete this Koki pen. Looks a bit too messy. There we go. So if price creates a bit of that pullback, that break of structure to the downside, leaving behind that opposite supply, we want to see a failure of that supply with opposite side demand in control to look for longs to continue targeting those M15 weak highs. Okay. Yeah, this is your refined area of demand. Okay, yeah, you guys happy with XAU? And just the recap. I took this trade yesterday based on the matrix indicator after realizing it broke the M15 week. Is that a bad thing? Not at all. So that could be seen as a liquidity sweep, and then the indicator gives confirmation to go short. And that's what the indicator is about. It's about experimenting with various different systems, pairing it up with your swing structure. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right. Okay, guys, I think we've covered enough pairs for London session. We can then move into session. So I'm quickly going to end the recording so I can post that straight away, because YouTube takes at least an hour or two to process the HD version of these videos and these webinars. So yeah, I'll try and upload it as soon as possible. But yeah, happy trading all. We'll see you guys in the next stream.